Your neighbor Jim figured out that with Metro PCS, he gets unlimited data, talk, and text for $30, period.
Babe, that color looks awesome.
Just like he figured out that shopping with his wife will buy him a night with his buddies. That's Guys Night Out, figured out. You too figure it out. Switch to Metro PCS on the fast 4G LTE T-Mobile network for only $30, period. Metro PCS. Wireless. Figured out. Coverage not available in some areas. Plan includes first 1 gigabyte of data at up to 4G LTE speeds. See store or metropcs.com for details and terms and conditions and data management info.
Blog Talk Radio.
Howdy, race fans. How the hell are you? Steve Billmyer here, your host of this week's episode of Racing with Big Sweat. I'm glad to be here. I've got two fine drivers here we're going to talk to tonight. A sprint car driver named Kyle Locke and a super late model driver, Cassius Clark. We're going to talk to them, find out what's going on and what the future holds for them. While we've got a moment here, let me let you say hello to my co-host, my partner in crime, the man who puts all this together and gives me a platform to speak from. This is Mr. CJ Sports. How are you, CJ? That good, huh? Well, he must have to take a leak or something anyway. In case you haven't tuned in before and you're a new listener, Racing with Big Sweat, we concentrate on local short track racing. We don't do much with NASCAR in the upper tier series there. I've got a new mouth I'm trying to break in right now. And we talk to the local guys. The guys that work a 9-to-5 job and then work at night on their cars just so they can run on Saturday night. My man is back, who I introduced you to before. CJ, how you doing tonight?
Not doing too bad. Glad to be here hanging out. I got a couple great guests going on tonight, so looking forward to hearing about these two great drivers and what they got to say.
Yep, well, let's do that. First gentleman we're going to talk to tonight is a super late model driver named Cassius Clark. And the man has been a pretty successful driver, and we're going to see if we can pry some secrets out of him and find out what makes him so good. Cassius, how you doing tonight, buddy?
Good, man. How are you?
Doing good, man. Doing good. Congratulations. You've took home the hardware a couple of times so far this season. Tell everybody how your season's going.
Pretty good. We got to, a little bit of a late start there. We've run 3 races so far, and we won the last 2, and was running well on the first one there, and had some mechanical issues that kind of took us out. We were running second in that one as well. So, yeah, off to a good start, and looking forward to the rest of the year.
Sounds like it. What caused your late start? Do you have problems that you found late?
No, we were going to just pick and choose, kind of run the bigger races, which are typically run in the second half of the season. But we last minute we kind of decided to get things rolling. Of course, we're up here in the Northeast too, so the snow just melted not too long ago, and in Canada it's even worse than that, where I'll be racing the majority of the time now. So,
are you based up there in the north?
Yeah, I live in Maine, and I'm racing for a team that's out of Nova Scotia, Canada.
Cool. So what tracks do you run up there? I'm not too familiar with them, but one might ring a bell.
Yeah, well, around here in Maine, obviously we run, the Pass North Series. I've run that for a number of years, Oxford Plains, Beech Ridge, all those kind of tracks. But up in Canada, there's a bunch up that way, Scotia Speed World. We're headed to Riverside this weekend in Antigonish, Nova Scotia. Or last weekend we were in Speedway 660, which they hold a big race, Labor Day weekend in the fall there. And then, just a bunch of tracks up that way.
You get around quite a bit. How do you like touring with Pass Series and traveling that much? Is that what you prefer to do?
Yeah, it's all I've ever really done. Started out racing legend cars, and then even with that, we ran a weekly show at, Thursday night deal, and on the weekends traveled around and kind of went all over the U.S. Really, we went down and ran Florida in the winter, and went to the Nationals in Charlotte and Las Vegas, and from there kind of jumped right into Pass and kind of been traveling ever since. We raced the Snowball Derby there in December. Went down to that. Ooh. And done that 2 or 3 times, and kind of just all over the place really.
What do you think of the Snowball Derby?
It's definitely one, if not the biggest super late model race in the country, and they've got it, well scheduled. The end of the year, everybody's all finished up. If you got any money left through your year, then it's an event. All the big guys, they all want to go to.
Yeah, I've never been down there. It's high on my bucket list to go. But I heard one driver tell me the safest place down there is on the tracks, and you'll get run over in the pits because there's so many cars down there moving around. It's like you said, it is probably the biggest super late model race, definitely in the Southeast. And the track's kind of rough, though, isn't it? I've heard that your tire bill is usually pretty high down there because you go through a lot of tires.
Yeah, for sure. It's it's an expensive deal. They do limit it for the race. I think there's 4 sets, I guess, with a set that you qualify with, and then obviously the practice deal is big because you have to do a lot of mock qualifying runs. It's such a tight, competitive field that literally from first to 30th to make it in on time is within usually 2 or 3 tenths. So you got to really concentrate on that, and you burn 2 or 3 sets of tires up trying to get through that deal. And then once you do that, you need to work on your long run setup too. So practice practice tires. Some guys are getting 10, 12 sets just for practice.
Oh man, that'll keep a tire man busy for sure. Back up north where you run, you said you run the Pass Series. Do they have live action pit stops during cautions, or do they do like some of the other late models do and just have like a 10-minute break halfway through the race for you to work on your car?
A little combination of both. Most of the time on the Pass races now, we've got the Oxford 250, which is a live pit stop race, and then the Beech Ridge 300, which is a live pit stop race. They do it so that you can't lose a lap under yellow. So if you've got guys that you don't have a big team or you don't have really guys, even if you can't change all 4 tires, on one pit stop, you're still going to be on the lead lap if you're on the lead lap to begin with. So that's a good deal. There's the Canadian deal there. There's they have some halfway breaks, and then there's some races at the it's kind of a mixture of both.
Yeah, when you don't count caution laps, hell, you can change a rear spring under caution if you're that far off on your setup and still get back into the race.
Yeah, for sure.
That's kind of the late model type racing that I grew up on, and to each his own, Your crew chief, who crew chiefs your car?
A good buddy of mine named Andrew Hicken. He's from up there in Canada, and actually he moved down south. Him and I actually ended up in North Carolina about the same time and met each other there. He went down there and was working for Jeff Foltz, and I was racing for a guy that was out of his shop, and ever since then we've kind of been best friends. And he relocated back up there, and we remain close. And the guy that he was racing for, wanted me to go up there and race the car, and since we've been doing that, we've had a lot of success. So.
What brought you down to Charlotte? Just wanted to try your luck?
Just the company I was working for kind of changed hands and, folded up a little bit. My sister was living down there, and, I had worked quite a while, so I just thought I'd take a little bit of a break, and ended up there for about a year or so, and mainly just did some racing, down there, kind of all over the place, different shows, some of the Pass South shows and some of the CRA stuff, and that. And, I did that for a year or so and came back up here, went back to work, and, started racing back up here again.
While you were down in were you in Charlotte area?
Yeah, I was living in Huntersville, right near Mooresville there.
Yep, I lived in Concord there for a long while. Did you ever get a chance to go to Bowman Gray Stadium?
I went there once to watch. My sister was actually working for Childress, and we went over and watched the Dillon boys. They were racing legend cars, so I went over with her when we watched that. So that was a pretty neat experience.
Yeah, you're right. It's definitely an experience, but they pack the fans in there shoulder to shoulder, so more power to them. What does the future hold for you as far as racing? How far do you want to carry? How far up the ladder do you want to go?
Oh, I'm at my peak right now. I'm just all I am is just a short track racer. Obviously, I work a full-time job and, race on the weekends. Obviously, I like racing, and there's we're fortunate enough to go around to some of these bigger races. There's some of those that I haven't won yet that I'd like to win, before I hang up the helmet there. If I ever get a chance to get down to a snowball, I'd like to get one of those wins. And, the Oxford 250's kind of been eluding me here a little bit, so would like to be able to hopefully capture that this year.
Definitely so. You seem to have a pretty good handle on your home track. Why is that? What's the secrets to your success there?
I don't know if I really have a home track. We've run real well at Scotia Speed World there. They've got some big races. I think we won 3 of the 250s there, and then the track I was just at last weekend there, we won a couple of their 250s. I don't know. I never really had a home track. Done a lot of traveling, so been able to adapt, and tracks always seem to change. So always some of the tracks, better than other. I kind of seem to know what we need for a handle on the car on the longer races there, and just good teams and a lot of luck.
Yeah, and a lot of preparation too. How do you how much extra motivation do you get out of showing up at a different track, maybe a strange track that you hadn't been to much, and running well, and maybe even taking the money home with you? Does that motivate you anymore to beat those guys that are there week after week?
Yeah, well, it's going to happen a little bit this year. Maybe not taking the money home, but, I'm going to hit up some new tracks that I haven't been to yet. So I really look forward to that. I mean, I don't know how many tracks I've raced at yet, but, it's a fair amount. And, it feels good to go into a track. And like I said, they're all, you can usually find one that's similar to another track when you've raced as many different places as I have. So, but they all have their own characteristics. So it's neat to go to someplace new, and it's a different challenge for me as a driver, and as the crew as a team, and try to work well together and bring home a win.
What kind of game plan do you have when you show up at a track like that?
Well, the game plan is to win. That's the number one priority. We weren't really going to be racing for points this year, but I guess we're going to maybe go for that this year to try to get the car owner there. He wants to run for another championship up there, so kind of got a points race a little bit this year on the points races there. So, if we don't win, bring home the best finish we can.
When you're points racing like that at one track, do you find yourself emptying your shop and carrying every spare part you can in case something happens?
Yeah, well, that's what we're going to have to do. They're building another new car that will be available for us, here in the couple, few weeks, and then the longer races, especially all the races are 100, 150, 250 lap races. So that's all green flag laps. So they're longer races. Obviously, things can happen, and if you do get banged up, the crew can work on it and get you back out there and get some valuable points. That might be needed for the end of the year there.
Those long 150, 200 lap races, and you get in the middle of a long run, not much passing, the field strung out, no cautions. Do you get bored?
No. Never been bored in a race. No, never been bored in a race car. I'm always, if I'm not leading, I'm always trying to pass whoever's in front of me, or to get the lead, or think what I got to do to hopefully a caution comes out and make a pit stop and make the car better for when we go back green. So I've never been bored in a race car.
That's good to hear. You mentioned you were building another car. How many cars does your team have?
They've got one that's all ready to go now. They're a chassis dealer for LFR, so he builds cars all the time. But this will be the first year that we've got two ready to go. So.
Well, that's cool. Does that mean you have one to race and one to back up, or you have one for Friday night and one for Saturday night?
Yeah, well, we usually just race one time a weekend, and they have a rule up there where when you unload, you have to run the car that you unload. So it's kind of going to be, a little bit of a different deal. Some of the different divisions that we run up here have some different rules and whatnot. So it will just make it so you don't have to change, take the rear end out and change your rear end, and a few different odds and ends for the different series. So it will kind of give us. That as an option, or if you do, get banged up and you got a quick turnaround week, you have the option to be able to run the other car for the next week while you're fixing the primary car.
That's an interesting rule that you have to run the car that you unload first. I wasn't aware of that one. That's pretty interesting. And like I tell
listeners, it helps the smaller teams for sure. That aren't. Are able to bring another car to the track or be able to afford two cars. So it's a rule that it's a good rule, I think, to try to keep the cost down a little bit. Yeah,
that'll definitely help do that. And like you said, it does help the little guy out. Kind of evens the playing field. Do you do much testing during the week or anything, or do you just show up and go?
Well, I'm in Maine here, so once in a while the races, they do have some tests the day before or, the Thursday before. They don't have a test policy, where Pass North, has a rule that you can't test, 7 days in advance to being able to race at the track. But up in Canada there, they don't have a rule like that. So once in a while we'll test the day before, or maybe 2 days before, depending on what the schedule's like.
I see. You mentioned earlier that you had a job. What kind of profession are you in?
I run a trailer business up here in Maine, a smaller trailer business that I own, and build utility trailers and dump trailers, equipment trailers, all that kind of stuff.
I see. since you're the boss there, do you call most of the shots at the track, or does the crew chief pretty much handle that and just work off your information?
Yeah, no, he does the input on all the car. I used to when I raced for a different team, my dad and I, we used to do all the crewing of it and working on the car after work and all that kind of stuff. So I've played that role, but now I'm so busy with my business and everything, and he does it for a living. So I let him worry about the setups, and then when we get to the track, we kind of see what we both feed off each other, for the changes that we'd like to make to try to make it better. I have suggestions, he has suggestions, and we have a really, really good working relationship to be able to get to the track and, feed off each other for information for what we think needs to be changed to get the car better.
Definitely. Geez, I lost my train of thought. Hang on. You talked about you and your dad had a deal one time where y'all did all the work and everything. So I would assume that you pretty much know your race cars from end to end and know exactly what you've got under you and how it should react or anything. Do you find that to be a big advantage for you?
Yeah, I was fortunate enough. When we did start out, it was my dad and I. We had someone that owned the car that kind of gave us everything we needed. But we did learn everything on our own. We bring the car to get it set up and stuff like that. But it was always him and I at the track. It was our ideas worked together, and the changes that were being made. I felt those a million times over the years. I mean, obviously, setups and things have changed with the bump stops and stuff like that. But being able to work on the car and know what kind of adjustments that need to be made to, rectify whether the car is tight here or loose here has definitely been beneficial for sure.
Didn't you mention you had a chassis company as a sponsor?
No, the team that I drive for now is a LFR dealer. So they sell LFR race cars now. They had Hamke there a few years ago, and now they're an LFR dealer. So. Yeah,
I know Roger Hamke. He's a tough character to deal with, to say the least. But
he's when I was living down there, though, I would race his cars for a few times and get along with him pretty well. He's a good old boy, and he likes racing, and he's got a good business going there. So.
Yeah, definitely so. He's one of the top builders, chassis builders around, and he's real knowledgeable, too. He's a good guy to hang around because you can pick up a bunch of information from him.
Yeah, sure. Yeah.
Were you racing when you were down here in the Charlotte area when you were in Huntersville?
Was I racing? Yeah, I was driving for I was actually driving an old All Pro car that was converted over into a Super Late model, and I was racing for a guy named Randy Wilson. He owned he's from Wilmington, North Carolina, and drove for him and Jeff Foltz there, and like I said, did that for about a year, and had a blast doing that.
Did you run at Concord?
Yeah, we did. I think I ran there once. We ran the North-South Shootout in 2009. We actually sat on the pole there and got the track record that still holds and led a lot of the race. Ended up third, but the second half of the race there, the rear end started letting go on us, so we ended up third, but had a good run going.
I heard that in the track record too, huh? That's cool.
So that was a fun race, and that track is pretty awesome. It's out of all the places I've been to, it's right at the top of my list.
Definitely so, and they kind of stretched the meaning of the word dog leg. For those that don't know, that track is shaped pretty much like Pocono. It's got a giant dog leg in the back stretch, What'd you think of that?
Yeah, it was, coming from Maine here, we're all, pretty much 3rd mile, 3/8 mile, all flat tracks, so coming from up here to down there, obviously previously to that, I raced down south quite often on some bigger tracks with some banking, but it's nothing like what we get around here. So you go down there for the first time, it's definitely an eye-opener for sure.
Yeah, it's definitely an eye-opener. I used to bring my late model team there quite a bit. My driver at the time was in Cherryville, which is on the other side of Charlotte. And the way Concord ran their late model races, they'd run a big 150-lap race one Saturday night that paid good. Then they'd run a 75-lap race the next Saturday night that didn't pay enough for me to make that trip. So Lance and I, my driver, worked out a deal where we'd run Concord on the nights when they paid good, and Lance wouldn't have to travel, and then we'd run, my track was Southern National Speedway in Kinley. We'd run Kinley on the next Saturday night, and he'd have to travel. So we both had some people out there, but we got to run some good tracks. Have you ever heard of Southern National Motorsports Park or been there and raced?
Yeah, I've raced there a couple times. So, raced there a few times. And, had some good runs going there. I don't think we ever won, but I think we got second or third a couple times or whatever. So it was pretty, it's a real nice track with some banking to it. And, nice facility.
Yeah, it's almost like a mini Bristol, the way it's got some high banking and everything. When I was racing there, Denny Hamlin was just tearing them up down there. And everybody said he was cheating, but, nobody could prove it. And I never thought he could, but he had a car that would really pivot in the middle of the corner. So he could bury that mother down at the end of the straightaway, and that car would pivot and line him up, and he'd get a straight shot off the corner, and he'd just beat everybody else. So I was glad to see him move up and get where he is now and everything.
Right. That's the trick. So.
Yeah, definitely. So, but like you said, there's a different style of tracks up north, up in Maine and everything. It don't carry as much banking as we do down here. Which do you prefer, the high banks or the more flatter tracks? Which can you get around better?
No, to be honest with you, I don't know. I don't really know if I have a favorite now. There's so many different ones of them. I like the speed. A lot of the tracks, like Concord, I like going fast. Lakeland, I used to like going to because it's going fast. Thompson, Connecticut, it's a real fast track. We race Nashville. That's a fast place. But when we jump on these flat tracks too, it's a whole different deal. It's it's kind of like you're racing on ice all the time. I feel that you kind of have to be a little bit more careful, and you're kind of right on the edge all the time of spinning out, and that's kind of the trick to going fast. So
when you were racing Legends cars, did you learn things, throttle control and things like that have carried over to your super late model racing?
I would say. I mean, I never raced go-karts or anything. Started out with the Legend cars when I was 16 and raced those for 3 years, and then started racing, past north, touring with the super late model stuff. So, I mean, obviously, started out with that and jumped right into a touring car. So, they have a lot of horsepower for what they have for weight to tire ratio. So, it's not like a go-kart where you just jump in and mat it and steer it around. You actually have to drive it with your foot, and obviously there's a lot of throttle control that goes with it.
Very much so, I would imagine, in a super late model, because you're basically running in the same thing. You can overpower the rear tires real easy. So throttle control is, I would assume, is a pretty big deal there.
Yeah, for sure, and tire management as well now, because these longer races, all the 150-lap races, you start on 4 tires and have to finish with those. So tire management is as big as anything, especially on some of the tracks with, real abrasive pavement. So there's, some are worse than others, but throttle control and knowing when to use what you got or save it for the end is, a big part of it.
The tires they run up there, they're Hoosiers, aren't they?
Yes. Yep.
Yeah, the predominant tire.
We started out running American Racers there for a lot of years, and then they made the switch over to Hoosiers. So been running those for the last 5 or 6 years, I'd say.
Do you find the Hoosiers pretty easy to work with? I did.
Yeah, it's a good tire. It's nice because obviously the Pass North now and the Pass South run on the same tire, so it's nice to be able to travel to the different tracks, and if it's something that you're not familiar with, at least you're running the same tire. So that's one variable that you can kind of take out of the equation, and then just kind of focus on the track itself.
Yeah, it makes life a lot easier when you can eliminate some of the variables and take that stuff out. I always try to run the same stagger, too, to take that out of it and not change it. And, there's plenty of other things you can do, really, on a late model to make it handle, so you're not tied down to 1 or 2 or 3 different things.
That's a neat part of them. They're pretty neat race cars. There's a lot to them. I mean, they've obviously evolved, a lot over the number of years, and there's with all the people working on them down south now, the technology is always changing, and a lot of stuff trickles down from the Cup cars down to what we're able to run. So it's it's always new inventions coming out and new speed secrets and stuff like that. So it's fun to try to stay on top of all that.
In the Pass series, you run a rack and pinion type steering, don't you?
Yeah. Yep.
Yeah, see, down here in the late model stock cars, they run the old style steering the same as what they run on the Cup cars and the top 3 series. So you can learn how that type of steering feels. So you're kind of ready for it when you move up. And that's one of the good things about that NASCAR has done with that series is leveled it out a lot. The motors are real restricted and everything, and very few modifications you can do there. So everybody pretty much runs the same speed down the backstretch, and that type of racing is not so much who's the fastest on the straightaway, it's who doesn't lose as much time in the corners. So it really takes the racing out of the motor and out of the car and puts it in the driver's hands and helps train that driver. And it's a great way to start out if you're trying to go to Cup racing as your ultimate goal, but it's a notch below K&N Pro Series, but it's a good deal to check out.
Right, yeah.
Go ahead.
Yeah, no, when I was down south there, there was a lot of late model stocks around, but never drove one. So.
Well, they drive. Jimmy Johnson drove for me some, and he told me one time that those late model stocks drive like a Cup car drives, or at the time he was running Busch Series. But he said it's got the same type push you get in the middle of the corner and everything. He said a lot of what you can get out of driving a late model stock you can apply to driving Busch cars and such. So they're a lot alike. So that's
a good series, and they have a lot of races down that way at a lot of different tracks. So it's a good type of car for those guys down that way to run for sure.
Yeah, it definitely is. And I pretty much raced like you did. I didn't race for track championships. I went to different tracks. And pretty much I'd look at the payouts, and whoever paid the most to start, that was where I was going.
Right.
And how far down in the field could I finish and still pay the tire bill?
Right, exactly.
That's how you kind of got to look at it. I had on Friday nights, there's a track. I'm based in Raleigh, North Carolina, and there's a track, 45-minute tow from here in Burlington. And I would bypass that track and tow 2 hours to Emporia, Virginia, simply because that track in Emporia, you could finish in 10th place and pay your tire bill. Where over in Burlington, if you finished in 4th, you didn't make enough to pay your tire bill. So,
right, yeah. It's
when you're running on a budget, that's the way it's got to be.
Yep.
Well, let's take a moment, give a shout out to anybody you want to recognize, your family, your crew, your sponsors, your favorite track, anybody you want to mention. Go ahead and take your time.
Yeah, well, look, over the number of years, obviously, thank my family for getting me into races and, supporting me all through the years. And, the team that I'm driving for now, King Racing, up there in Canada, we've got a stretch of four races right in a row here up in Canada, and we're racing this Saturday night at Riverside in Antigonish, and look forward to seeing people out there.
Cool deal. And what about social media? How can people follow you there?
I'm on Twitter, Cassius Clark, and they can find me on Facebook, or they can check out our team on Facebook, which is King Racing. Cool
deal. Well, I'm glad I got to meet you tonight, Cassius, and I enjoyed talking to you. I learned a couple of things. I appreciate that, and keep us posted as to what's going on. I have a group, NASCAR and Other Racing, on Facebook that you're a member of, and that's how I keep up with a lot of your stuff, is getting your posts and stuff. So keep us informed, and good luck this year. I hope you keep on winning.
Yeah, will do. Appreciate it. Nice to meet you, and you guys have a good night.
You too, Cassius. We'll be in touch, bud.
Okay, thanks.
Thank you. Ladies and gentlemen, it's Cassius Clark. This man can wheel a super late model, and if you're up in the northeast corner or in Canada, get over there and check him out. I'm sure he'd be worth a trip to see. All right, let's get on with our next guest, young man that likes to drive them sprint cars, Kyle Locke. Kyle, how you doing, buddy?
Doing great. How are you doing, Steve?
Finer than frog's hair tonight. We're having a good night. Your season been going not too bad from what I've seen, but tell everybody what's going on.
Well, this year we're mainly just running. Both my brother Brady and I. This is our first year in our own sprint car equipment. We're both running 360 cubic inch motors. Mainly running the Great Lakes Super Sprint Series, and my home track is Butler Motor Speedway. So we've been hitting that a little bit here and there, and just trying to get the cars around the track, get the setup down, get some seat time in. That's all.
Have you won any this year?
No, I've had 2 top 3s. One with the Sprints on Dirt Series, and one is just a regular Butler show, and top 10, but no wins yet. We're trying for it. We're pushing for a win. Hopefully we can get there.
I hear you. You said you'd moved up to the 360 Sprints. What were you racing before, like last year?
Well, last year, actually, the thing that got me into like a full-size Sprint, somebody offered me a ride last winter. And I ended up taking that, and that's kind of what helped us transition to our own equipment this year. But even before that, we run what's called a micro sprint. 600cc crotch rocket motor, hyper chassis, pretty quick little responsive cars there.
Did you find it was a big adjustment moving up to the full-size sprint cars?
You know, when I first got in mine, it wasn't as bad as I thought it'd be. I felt pretty much right at home. A lot of people told me that it would be a lot different, and it was in many aspects for sure, but it wasn't as hard to adjust as I thought it would be, and I really enjoyed it.
Have you run wing and wing and non-wing, or do you pretty much stick with wing? That's what I've seen in your pictures.
Yeah, haven't ran any non-wing. Not to say we won't in the future. In the past, in the mini sprints, we did run a little bit of non-wing. I think it'd be something cool to get into. Maybe if we master running with a wing on, we might try a non-wing. Seems pretty cool.
Yeah, definitely. So, what class did you start out in when you started racing?
Well, what the deal was is my brother actually started racing before I did, and I fell in love with it. I loved watching, loved hearing motors. So I said, you know, I got to get my own car. So I ended up buying my own car, and we started in what's called a 250 Ninja class, and they only run it, I believe, at Jackson Speedway, which is in Michigan, and that's just a 250 crotch rocket motor from Kawasaki Ninja. So.
Cool deal, and you financed the deal yourself, huh?
What's that?
I said you bought the car, you financed the deal yourself.
Yes, I did. Yep. I mean, I paid the initial cost, of getting that first car for myself. All the money we put into it, obviously, my parents helped me out a little bit on that. But from there, I mean, that was the first and only car I bought. From there, my parents obviously, for all that. After that, running in the 600s, that got pretty expensive, and I couldn't help out with that anymore. So.
Yeah, I know what you mean. Is your family pretty involved in you and your brother's racing?
Oh yeah. Well, I used to be a sports guru. My brother didn't play any sports, and you know we all loved going fast, and so he got in one, and we loved it. We'd drop everything, go up, watch the races. We'd all be there supporting each other, and even now, it's just everyone's expecting it. It's kind of like a family night all in itself. We go there, we got food in the trailer. We all have a good time down at the racetrack, and it's just a real good time. My family's real involved with it, and a lot of people like it around here. It's cool.
Yeah, it's nothing like being involved with family in racing. I tell you, it's one of the things that makes racing so great, really, and especially when you can do things like eat together, at the racetrack and sit down and talk for a few minutes. Cool deal, always to have. Let me make things tense for you. Thanksgiving, who's the better driver, you or your brother?
Well, I don't know.
Tell the truth. He ain't listening.
It's his first year in a sprint car. I'm not taking anything away from him. He's a great driver. But obviously, I've got more seat time in the car. I'd say I'd have to be a little bit better. But he's a heck of a driver himself, and I can see him going far with the sprint cars. He's doing a real good job. I'm not taking anything away from him. He's a great driver.
You answered that well. Maybe y'all will get the wishbone at Thanksgiving. Which one? Who's the oldest brother?
I'm older. I'm 17, and my brother turned 15 in February. So.
How long have you been racing?
This will be my 6th year, and my brother's 6th year. So, 6 years total.
Y'all started out at the same time. how far do you want it to carry you? What's your future plans?
I mean, I understand that, it's not very likely, and, a lot of people think that it may or may not happen. Racing as of right now is just it's a hobby for me. If I could continue it and make a career out of it, that would be awesome, spectacular. I'm not really sure. Like I say, my parents fund me right now. If we had a couple big sponsors to jump on board, maybe in the future we could get something big going, or maybe even a ride from someone again. But as of right now, I see us as the years go on. I see us maybe branching out a little bit, hitting some bigger races. Just the usual, progressing as we go. We can't really jump into anything. We're still just learning. But I'd really like in the future to get in the swing of some bigger things for sure. And if I can make a career out of it, I would not object to that. I love racing. I
hear you. Ever had the urge to try asphalt and fendered cars? If somebody offered me to, I would not turn my nose up to it. Any form of auto racing to me is pretty awesome. But I must say, if I had to choose dirt or asphalt, I would choose dirt 100 times. I think, in my opinion, anyways, dirt track racing is it's just awesome to watch. You got slide jobs and you're sliding everywhere, and it just takes you probably already seen it. It just takes skill and everything to keep your rear end behind you, and I don't know. I for sure think that dirt is the way to go. But if somebody did offer me a ride on asphalt, I would definitely take it too. I heard that. I've always been involved in asphalt racing. I'll admit I kind of even looked down on dirt track racing until I started my Facebook group and doing this internet radio show, and then I got to talk to a lot of dirt people and started learning some things and started watching it on TV, and it's a pretty fascinating way to run. Have to deal with more things, like the thing I'm trying to learn about is the track, how the track surface changes, how you judge what the track is. I'm good at you at that. You're pretty good at knowing what the track surface is going to do and how to adjust for it.
Like my hometown track, Butler, I've been there enough that I know pretty much what it's going to do. Obviously, before every race, I go up and look at the track and just tell my crew, what I think it's going to do or what it is doing. I mainly do all my setup stuff myself, and I just have all my dad is my crew chief. I have him look over all my stuff and just keep an eye on me and make sure I'm doing things right. But as far as that goes, I think we lately we've been hitting track setup pretty spot on, and I think we're doing a pretty good job of determining what it's going to do in the future.
Well, yeah, winning 2 out of 3 at Butler, that'd be a clue. Y'all got a pretty good idea of what's going on. How long has your dad been involved in racing?
Ever since we started. He never, when he was a kid, he his parents didn't really, they didn't want him to race, the danger of being in a car, breaking bones. Whether it's racing in a sprint car or something with a roll cage or dirt bikes, my dad would have loved to done it, but I don't think his parents liked that too much, and so he never really was involved with racing until we started, which, like I say, was about 6 years ago.
Cool deal. What's your most memorable moment in racing? What's been big for you over your career so far?
think it was pretty cool last year, winning my heat race, because, I don't know, it was just pretty cool going out there. I hadn't been in the car too much. We ran out there to Butler, and I was running 360 against some 410s, and ended up finishing first in one of my heats. Haven't got that feature win yet, still chasing it, so hopefully soon.
Yep.
That'll be one of my big moments. But
well, on the other side of the coin, what's one of your worst moments? Something where it just didn't go right.
Last year we had a lot of bad luck.
Oh, geez.
I was driving this guy's equipment, and we had run down there to Lima every Friday night, and it seemed about 4 weekends in a row. We wadded it up. Opening night, guy spun on the front stretch, nowhere to go, lost my brakes, and it just seemed like a recurring thing, every week. And then finally, last time I was down there last year, I hit the wall and I said I was done down there. But it was just a bad series of events, and I've learned to kind of accept them and put them in my past, because I really loved Lima, the track down there, and we actually ran pretty well down there this year. So,
well, that's always a little extra motivation going into this year, and hopefully you left your bad luck behind, and this year will be a lot better for you that way. Take a minute to give a shout out to anybody you want to recognize, your sponsors, your crew, your shop dog, whoever.
Well, first and foremost, my parents, my brother, can't thank them enough for the support, not only this year, but last year and the years in the past. I want to thank one of my biggest sponsors, TLC Auto Collision. They make our cars look awesome with the paint. Adam Zabonic at Z Graphics, they do an awesome job stickering the car. Lock Masonry, a lot of funds put into that car. Misprint Apparel and Designs, they make our T-shirts. Let's see here, 5-Star Sprinkler Systems, Expressions Photography, they do our photographs and hero cards and all that good stuff. And just like to thank all the guys on my crew, Dave Williams, Kevin Tobalski for helping out a little bit here and there, and Guy Bassage. He's fabricated some stuff for us, and they've all put in a lot of time and a lot of effort into that car, and I really appreciate it.
Yeah, good people to have, I'm sure. What about social media? How can we keep up with you?
I'm on Facebook, Kyle Locke, Locke. My brother's on Facebook, Brady Locke. We have our own page, Locke Motorsports, and I'm on Twitter at Kyle3Locke. I'm also on Instagram.
All right. Well, I'm glad you came on the show tonight, Kyle. It's been real interesting talking to you, and I'm glad I got to meet you. Keep kicking ass at Butler and, the other tracks that you'll be hitting. And I'll keep up with you, and we'll try to get you back on later on in the season, check in with you, see how you're doing.
Awesome. Sounds great. Good meeting you too, Steve. Have a good night.
All right, you too, bud. We'll talk to you later.
Yep. Bye-bye.
Bye now. Well, folks, about time to wrap this shindig up. Been a very good show tonight. Two young gentlemen that were very articulate, spoke real good, had a lot to say. So, if you got a little money, you want to sponsor a race car, you might want to check these two guys out. They sound like they'd be great representatives for your company. And speaking of sponsors, I'd like to mention mine, Mr. Jimmy Haywood and his creation, Snafu Seasoning. Sorry, I didn't mean to say that, redneck. But it's some good stuff. It's a good rub. It's Great on most any type of meat and some salads and everything else. All natural. No preservatives, nothing you can't pronounce or anything. So check it out. Go to www.snafuseasoning.com. Thanks again, Jimmy. We do appreciate it. CJ, let everybody know what you got going on in all your multiple outlets.
We got tomorrow night. We got Hot Laughs with Stats kicking off at 8 p.m. I'm your host, Mike Saracone. Got a great show lined up for us here on the 110 Nation Sports Radio Network. At noon on Saturday, you guys can catch the Happy Hour Garage. And, of course, Monday through Wednesday, you can always catch the 110 Nation Sports Show right here on the 110 Nation Sports Radio Network at 9 p.m. If you missed it earlier this week, we had ARCA Series driver Brady Boswell make an appearance on Monday's show, and then we had team owner Mason Mitchell make his monthly stop into 110 Nation studio to talk about the 2016 season. So, guys, make sure you guys check that out. Make sure you guys check us out on Twitter at 110 Nation and check out our fan page, 110 Nation Sports. And also, one more thing, make sure you guys check out our group. We have revamped that, added some admins, doing a lot of great things over there. So if you guys want to join join our group, you guys can find us over at the 110 Nation for our group page.
Cool deal, definitely a cool deal. As for myself, the social media sensation, I'm at Twitter. I'm at Big Sweat, and they know me as the NASCAR Heartbreaker and Homewrecker. Facebook, I have a racing group, NASCAR and Other Racing, that both Kyle and Cassius are members of. We have a lot of drivers. We talk about all forms of racing. We have group race threads where we get together and talk about the race as we're watching it. We cover all types of racing, IHRA, Formula One, Indy cars, NASCAR. If they're turning laps, we're covering it. If you want to get another view from me of NASCAR and what's been happening over the past weekend, check out my blog, NASCAR Shit Racing with Big Sweat. It posts on Tuesday, and I'll be talking some junk, so check it out. And also, besides being here on the 110 Nation Sports Network on Thursday night with Racing with Big Sweat, Mr. CJ Sports and myself host a NASCAR-oriented racing program, Rubbing is Racing, on Monday nights, 7 o'clock to 8 o'clock, and we talk about, well, our opinions of what happened over the past weekend and what's going to happen. So, plenty of racing on 110 Nation Sports Network, radio network. So, tune them in any day. You'll find something on there. And I'd like to say thanks again for listening in. I do appreciate it. Hope you'll be here with us next week. We're sure going to be here. See you later, CJ, and good night, people.
Taco Bell finds shocking data in new polls. 100% of dentists know you're lying about flossing. Michigan doesn't think it's that cold. And finally, Americans want a dollar menu that actually costs $1. You don't say. Taco Bell's new $1 morning value menu with stuff like sausage flatbread quesadillas with eggs, juicy sausage, melty cheese, all folded up in a warm flatbread for just $1. The only breakfast value menu where everything's $1. Comparison based among national quick service restaurants at participating locations. Prices and items may vary. Tax extra. Click the banner for $1 breakfast.
Hey, it's Flo, and this is my impression of a drill instructor directing a musical. Town hut! Get those tap heels in line and let me see those jazz hands! Are you bundling your home and auto insurance through Progressive? Can you hear me through those sequins?
Bundle your home and auto through Progressive and save.
Left, 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 and step ball change.
Progressive Casualty Insurance Company affiliates. Home insurance provided and serviced by other select insurers.